Well, as you can see, it's an absolutely beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon will not look like this. That I assure you. We'll get into all those forecast details after I thank tonight's forecast sponsor, Total Snow Solutions. Tonight's forecast is brought to you by Total Snow Solutions. Reliable, residential snow clearing with flat rate pricing starting at $9.95. They show up every time, so your driveway is cleared before you leave for work. Serving the St. John's metro area. Book your spot at TotalSnowSolutions.ca. Labrador's forecast is very straightforward over the next 24 hours. Cold with areas of flurries. Tonight, temperatures dipping into the minus 20s in the west, minus teens for much of the coast. And as we go into the day tomorrow, looking at sunshine for the coast, as warm as minus 6 in Mary's Harbor, only getting into the teens in parts of Labrador West and the north coast. Across the island overnight, we eventually see that snow moving into southern areas late tonight, but for a lot of us, it holds off until near sunrise tomorrow morning. Same thing for the Burin and Avalon Peninsulas, where lows tonight will be below the freezing mark. For the day tomorrow, we've got snow and wind for eastern, northeastern Newfoundland. Some areas like the Avalon will see that changing over to ice pellets and even some rain. As you go farther west, just snow and wind for much of central, northeastern, western, southern Newfoundland, northern peninsula. Looks like more in the way of lighter snow for you. Now we're going to talk about weather alerts, and the one thing I want to mention is this. Just because there's no weather alert for your area doesn't mean you're not going to see any snow. It just means what we're going to see is not expected to be severe enough to warrant an alert from Environment and Climate Change Canada. So we've got an orange warning for winter storm conditions for the Bonavista Peninsula, Clarenville area, Terra Nova, and Canagar for up to 40 centimeters of snow. A yellow warning for winter storm conditions is in effect for Burgeo-Ramia from Wednesday morning through the overnight. We're looking at a snowfall warning, a yellow warning for snowfall, I'll get this eventually, for Buckens in the interior, Grand Falls, Windsor, Bay of Exploits, Gander, and Bonavista North for upwards of about 20 centimeters of snow. We'll get to the map in a few minutes that I've drawn up. And the Burin Peninsula, Avalon Peninsula, also under that yellow warning for snowfall for the day tomorrow night into early Thursday morning. Now we take a look at the satellite and radar picture right now across the province. There's not much going on. The weather is very quiet. We look down to the south and it's a different story. We see rain and snow working into parts of western Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI, and the rain goes all the way down to almost Washington, D.C. That's where our area of low pressure is currently getting itself organized, and it's not overly strong right now, but it is certainly generating a lot of moisture. You can see all the rain into parts of eastern Massachusetts, that rain snow line right now just west of Boston, north and west of New York City, as you get towards Albany, Poughkeepsie, and then we're looking into parts of southern New England, northern New England, getting into the snow as well with that rain-snow transition line, a knife edge. That's what we are going to see tomorrow over most of southern Newfoundland, with that rain-snow line being very, very sharp for the Burin and Avalon Peninsulas. So here's future radar and cloud cover. We're not going to talk about how the low evolves. We're just going to get into the kind of timing of everything. So as we go into the early morning hours tomorrow, 6 a.m., we've got snow already ongoing across the Avalon Peninsula, Bonavista Peninsula, all the way back almost as far north as Corner Brook. Now you see the darker blues there? That's where the snow is getting heavier. So tomorrow morning, it's heaviest at this time along the south coast and the Burin Peninsula. As we go through the morning hours, we're going to watch temperatures try and warm up, but at the same time, we're going to see the snowfall rates increase rapidly after about 8 or 9 a.m. on the Avalon and the Burin Peninsulas, but specifically on the Avalon. We could be seeing snowfall rates tomorrow mid-morning between 5 and 8 centimeters per hour for several hours. That means it's going to be very, very difficult to travel. Same thing as you get west of the Avalon. The most intense snowfall going to be mid-morning into the middle part of the afternoon. Once we get through midday, we get that changeover to ice pellets and or rain for the Avalon and possibly the Burin Peninsulas, but there's that rain snow line. So 3 o'clock tomorrow could be raining in town. Areas like Heart's Content Barrens, Greats Cove, Bay de Verde. As you get up toward areas like Winterton, could be seeing heavy snowfall. Bonavista, heavy snowfall. Gander, Fogo Island seeing the heavy snow at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Once we get into 6 o'clock, it's still raining, still snowing off to the west, but this will rapidly begin to end as we go into the evening hours tomorrow. And on the Avalon, any rain will change back to snow tomorrow evening. Same thing for the Burin Peninsula. We may tack on a few more centimeters tomorrow evening or tomorrow night as we get that transition back to snow. And by Thursday morning, it's long gone. The weather's quiet for Thursday. The next weather maker is on deck for Friday. We'll talk about that one likely tomorrow. So we talk about the weather headlines. My confidence level is medium high, depending on the area we're talking about. We'll get to why in just a second. The most uncertainty in this forecast is on the Avalon, and the most certain part of this forecast is central and northeastern Newfoundland. It's fairly straightforward in those areas. Now, we're going to talk totals and also some wind. All right, so we'll talk about the snowfall forecast, and we'll start first where the forecast is easiest and where the snow is going to be highest, which is essentially the northern part of the Burin Peninsula, much of northeastern Newfoundland from the Bonavista Peninsula up toward the northeast coast, Clarenville area, and just probably past Come By Chance. Ronkonkoma East, Heronsville, Conagra Peninsula, this area, 30 to 40 centimeters. Locally, higher amounts are possible. As we go farther east, that's where the forecast is a bit trickier, right? Southern areas of the Avalon, pretty easy. Rain goes to snow. But as we get further north, we're in this 15 to 30 centimeter contour. The question is, do we end up closer to 15 or closer to 30? I suspect the further north you go, the closer you get to 30, maybe even over. But it's something that is a conundrum. Maybe not a conundrum, an enigma to me right now. And I hate to say we're not going to know till we know, but that kind of might be how it shakes out. And here is why. Take a look at the snowfall comparison for St. John's, okay? So we're looking at 4 different computer models here. We are looking at the graph model, the European model, the GFS model, the RDPS model, and the GFS ensembles. And so notice how we have a fair bit of agreement between the ECNWF, the GFS model, right? Showing close to 15 centimeters. Then you have the RDPS model, which is generally one of the better models for this area, showing closer to 30 centimeters for the St. John's area. 28.3 is what it's putting out. And then you have the graph model, only 5.5 centimeters. So if the forecast is right or close to right, I should say the forecast will either be close to right or really wrong, potentially on either way. 15 to 30 is good. Some computer models have more, some have less. I know that may not be super intuitive, but I think if we're wrong, it's going to be really wrong, not just a little bit wrong. So hopefully it doesn't happen. The other thing to take note of is, again, I mentioned the rates. Notice how these lines go straight up after between 9 and noon tomorrow morning. That's when the heaviest snow is going to be in the St. John's metro area. We're going to see those rates of 5+ centimeters per hour. That's when we make most of our snow. Areas off to the west, it'll be snowing pretty heavily throughout much of the day. But for eastern areas, we get that front end thump of the snow, and then it just kind of goes to drizzle or rain in the afternoon, and conditions will improve, but the winds are going to pick up. So the snowfall forecast, again, is a bit uncertain for the Avalon Peninsula, a little more certain as we go off to the west. It's also a pretty straightforward forecast for the western half of Newfoundland as well, where we are looking at snowfall amounts ranging from 15 to 30 centimeters in the Grand Falls, Windsor area, dropping back to between 5 to 15 for areas like Trout River, Corner Brook, Deer Lake, Buckins, Millertown, Stephenville Bay, St. George area. I think these areas likely end up closer to 15 than 5, except as you get towards Trout River, Rocky Harbor, likely a little bit less there with the offshore flow. And then as we get on the northern peninsula, it looks like 5 centimeters or less, with hardly anything expected in the St. Anthony area this go around. Okay, that's the snow forecast. And I'll have updates to come on that as we go throughout later tonight and obviously tomorrow. We have a yellow warning for wind. I'll get these colors in eventually. For the Burin Peninsula for tomorrow from midday through evening for winds gusting as high as 100 from the north. And then for the Avalon Peninsula north and St. John's, we're also looking at that wind warning for winds gusting as high as 100 from tomorrow evening through Thursday morning from the northeast or north. So something to kind of keep in mind. Timing that all out as we start tomorrow morning. Sure, it's going to be breezy out there, but the highest wind speeds, they're not going to begin to pick up until after lunchtime. On the Burin Peninsula, by midday, winds are gusting 81 in Brandbank, 84 Marystown, 88 down in St. Bride's. Throughout the afternoon, again, we get that little bit of a lull once the snow kind of goes over to rain for eastern areas as that low moves in. However, once we get into the evening hours tomorrow, those winds ramp up by midnight in St. John's, gusting 94, Bonavista gusting 93, 86 in Carabinera, 62 in Placentia. The wind speeds will stay up but then begin to slacken off as we get into the early morning hours of our Thursday. Thursday going to be a good cleanup day. I do think there's a good chance of school closures and business closures tomorrow. I won't say island-wide, but across many areas of Newfoundland. All right, there's your forecast for late in the week. Thursday is quiet. Friday looks like more rain, going to snow for eastern areas, more snow central and west, and it could be significant on Friday for parts of central and western Newfoundland, depending on the overall setup, which is still a bit of a question mark in my mind right now. In Labrador, cooling down big time by Friday in the west, a high of only minus 19. On the coast, we warm up a bit for Friday, but going to cool down significantly as we go into the weekend, at least as it looks now. To get your 7-day forecast, be sure to get the Share Weather app in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. If you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you very much. Give me a follow. Almost closing in on 200,000 followers on Facebook. A tremendous milestone. I'm very proud of that. All right, have a very, very good Tuesday evening. I'll have updates throughout the day tomorrow and perhaps a live stream later this evening, so watch out for notifications on that. Have a good night. Talk soon.